Good morning, everyone. Yes, good morning. So, shall we start the session? Where are the other students? Joseph? Okay, I'll wait for others. Shall we start the session right now? So let's begin with the second chapter, that is chapter number 2, system development life cycle. In the last class, we have finished with first chapter, that is the introduction to computer system or introduction to the system and this technology. So let's move to the next chapter, chapter number 2, system development life cycle. So as the name advises, system development life cycle, that is the life cycle of a system, that is how the system developed from the birth to the death or from the birth to the implementation, how the system developed, that is SDLC. And the full form is system development life cycle. The life cycle of a system development, that starting with the birth till the implementation. In this chapter, these are the few topics. One is objective, then introduction of the SDLC, then what are the various stages in the SDLC. That includes the selection, that is a requirement gathering, then feasibility study, analysis, design, then post implementation and the maintenance, then pre-implementation. Post means before the actual implementation there is a post implementation, then consideration for the candidate system. That means what are the various consideration, whether to deal with or whether to update the scenario, whether to move the scenario. That is a consideration. That includes the political consideration, planning and control for system success. Then next one is summary, and after this there are the questions. So these are the few topics of this chapter number 2, that is SDLC. Now let's move to the objective. What is the main objective of this chapter? What is the main objective of the SDLC? So first is how to build the computer-based information system. That is how to use the IT in a information system. That is how to build the computer-based information system. What are the different steps in the SDLC? So what are the various steps that is used in SDLC? What are the various phases, stages that is used in SDLC, that is system development life cycle? What prompts user to change their request? So what are the various prompts that is used to change their request? Then what are the various components of feasibility study? Components means what are the various parts of feasibility study that is used? Then what are the factors to consider in a candidate system? So what are the factors, what are the rules regulation that is used to consider in a candidate system, in a perfect system? So first is how to build the computer-based information system. Then what are the various different steps that is used in SDLC? Then what prompts user to change their request? What are the components of feasibility study? And what are the factors to consider in a candidate system? And how to plan and control for the system access. So how to plan out and control the system access or system success. This is the main objective of this chapter. This is the main objective of the SDLC. Next is introduction, that is 2.1. So it's the role of the system analyst to develop the system. So system analyst gives a system development project meaning and the direction. That is how to develop the system. That is a system development project meaning and the direction. And a candidate system is approached after the analyst has a true understanding of the user needs and the problem. So if the user have a needs, if the analyst have a proper need or the thought, that is done by the understanding of the user needs and the problem. A viable solution is worked out and then communicate the same. So whenever we are developing a system that is used by the system analyst, that is used or that is developed, so it is used by the, or it is communicated by the system analyst, and there's a candidate system, that is a individual system often cut across the boundaries of the user in the organization. For example, when we talk about the billing system, that may involve the user in the sales order department, the credit card department, warehouse, and the accounting department. So whenever we are talking about the billing system, that circulated or that involves the users from the sales department also, credit card department also, warehousing, and the accounting department also. And to make sure that each and every user's needs or requirements are meted out, so a project form that requests user with analysis to carry it out a system development project. So whenever we are using the analysis to carry it out, how to develop the system development project, that is the main introduction of this one. That means what are the various stages that is used to develop a system, that is known as the system development life cycles. It's a it's a starting phase to the maturity process that starts with the initialization, that starts with the requirement, then ends with the implementation. That is the stages of the system development life cycle. The system development lifecycle method is classically thought of as a set of the activities that analysts, designers, and users carried out to develop and implement an information system. So whenever we talk about the SDLC, so this method is classically thought of the various set of the activities that the analysts, designers, and the users carried out to develop and implement an information system. So it's a responsibility of the analyst, designers, and the users. Designers means who design, who develop, who do the coding. Analyst who perform each and every operation, who performs or carried out various activities of the system development, and the users who have a user requirement, who have the requirement to develop and implement an information system. And various stages that are very closely related with each other. That means output of one activity, output of the one stage is the input for the another stage. It's the responsibility of the system analyst to carry out the various stages. So the various stages in the business are closely related to each other. Even the order of the steps in these activities is difficult to perform. So even though the steps in these activities difficult to perform, so there are multiple stages that is used in the SDLC, that is system development life cycle. So first part is project selection. So one must know what the problem is before it can be solved. So one must know what is the main problem that is used before it can be solved in a, it can be selected in a problem. So one must know what the problem is before it can be solved. And the basis for a candidate system is recognition of a need for improving an information system or a procedure. So if there is an information system, that is a recognition of a need for improving an information system or a procedure. For example, when we talk about the supervisor, they may want to investigate the system flow in purchasing, or a bank president that is getting the complaints about the long lines in the driving. Now everything is doing online because there are so many long queues that is available in the at every place, whether the billing counter, anything. So it's very much to get the the computer that is available in the project selection. So this leads to a preliminary survey or the initial investigation to determine whether an alternative system can solve the problem or not. So make the investigation to determine whether the alternative system is available to solve the problem or not. It entails looking into the duplication of efforts, bottlenecks, insufficient existing procedures, or whether parts of the existing system would be candidates for computerization. So whether the existing system is available for the candidate's key, or whether it is used for the computerization or not. That is the project selection. That is the first part. That is the requirements. And if the problem is serious enough, management may want to have an analyst look at it. That means if the management is available at the analyst level, so this is used for the project selection, and such an assignment implies a commitment, especially when if the analyst is hired from the outside. And in the larger environments where the procedure or the formal procedures are the norm, the analyst's first task is to prepare a statement. That means the first task is to prepare a statement. What is specifying in this one? What are the various requirements of the users? How it will be developed? What is the base scope? And what is the main objective of the program? So the first part is the project selection, that is the gathering the requirements from the user. What are the various requirements in the in the market from the end user? So take a survey, and there are various modes to gather the requirement. Either take the interviews, either go for a on-site visit, either using the questionnaire. So there are multiple stages, there are multiple criteria by which we can gather the information. The idea for the change originate in the environment or from within the firm, and the environment-based ideas originate from the customers, vendors, government sources, and the like. For example, new unemployment compensation regulations may make it necessary to change the restructures. And the customer complaints about the delivery of the order may prompt an investigation of the delivery schedule, experience of the truck drivers, and the volumes of the order to be delivered. So it depends on the customer complaint that is required for the delivery of the order, that may prompt an investigation of the delivery schedule, experience, or the volume of the order that is to be delivered. And when investigated, each of these ideas may lead to the problem definition as a first step in the system development life cycle. So first step is gathering the requirement and analysis. Analysis is the next phase. The first phase is only the gathering the requirement from the end users. That is a user's requirement. Now these are a few examples that an organization acquires another organization, a local bank branch into the suburb. Then department spend 80% of its budget in 1 month. Then two departments are doing essentially the same work and each department head insists the other department should be eliminated. Then a request for a new form discloses the use of the bottleneck or use the unauthorized forms. So these are the few examples. That's why we are using the updation of the existing system. There are two criteria when we develop any system. What are the two criteria? Either we are updating on the existing systems, either we are developing a new brand system. So it depends on the scenario, it depends on the user's requirement. Now these are the examples, these are the 5 examples that shows there is a need to update the existing applications or improve the procedures. These are the few examples of this one. These are the 5 examples. And this is a diagram that shows what are the various ways by which we can gather the requirements. One is organization based. This is the source of system ideas. Then environment based. Then it is moving from the top organizations, top management, user, system analysts. So these are the various end users. These are the various, we can say, the parties that is involved in the system development. That may be a top management, that may be organization, that may be a user, that may be a system analyst. Then moving force, then there's a government, consumers, union, and the competition. So first step is over. That is a feasibility. That is gathering the requirement, users' requirement. So after gathering the requirement, next phase is the feasibility study. Feasibility study means check out the requirements, whether the requirements whether the requirements go for the updating the existing system, whether the requirement go for the new system. First step. Then analyze the requirements in the feasibility study also. What the most of the users demand. For example, 90% of the user demands for the IT information system and 20% demand for the non-IT information system. This is also the giving the priority to the various systems. That is also done under the feasibility study. But if I want to explain in one line, if I say in one line, so feasibility study means either to develop a new system or move to the or make the updating or updations in the existing system. And feasibility study also includes various parts like the technical feasibility, backup feasibility, time feasibility. That means what time is required to make a system, that is a time feasibility. What money, what amount is required, that is a cost benefit feasibility. What technical support is required, what human resources is required, that the human or HR feasibility. So these are the various types of feasibility. So let's begin with the feasibility. I think scenario is clear in. Okay. So depending on the results of the initial investigation or the user's requirement, the survey is extended to the more feasibility study, and it is a test of a system proposal according to the workability. And feasibility study focus on 3 major questions. What are the users' needs and how does a candidate system meet them or meet them? That means what are the users' needs and how these needs or how does a candidate system meet them, and what resources are available for a given candidate system. Is a problem worth solving? So whether the problem is worth solving or not. What is the likely impact of the candidate system on the organization? How well does it fit within the organization master MIS plan? So first of all, what are the various users requirement? What resources are required for the candidate's key? What are the various impacts of the candidate key on the organization and how it fits for the organization? Whether it includes the MIS, whether it includes the DPS or the DSS. And each of these questions must be answered carefully because this is one of the major steps in the feasibility in the system development life cycle, that is SDLC. We can say it's a crucial step. And each of these questions must be answered carefully. They revolve around investigation and evaluation of the problem, identification and description of candidate systems, specification of performance, and the cost of each system, and final selection. So these are the few categories. Yes, tell me, Joseph. Yes, we will. Yes, we will going to study what are the various types of feasibility, but this is the theory. We can say this is the explanation of the feasibility studies first of all. So, what is the main objective of feasibility study? Can anyone can answer? What is the main objective or why we are using the feasibility study step? Or we can say what is the main benefit of feasibility study? So the main objective of feasibility study is not to solve the problem, but to acquire a sense of its scope. That what is the main scope, or what is the criteria we follow to develop a system, whether we are building the system in the right time, that the time given by the users, or whether we have a technical support, whether we have a technical resources, tools that is available to develop the system. So taking out each and every step or taking out each and every care about the system, that is a feasibility study. That is not to solve the problem exactly, but to acquire a sense of the scope, but is a means sense of why we are or how we are going to develop a system. And during this study, the problem definition is divided into the multiple parts like the technical feasibility, human feasibility, and in the same way, we are also going to do the one of the important step of the feasibility, that is the cost and the benefit analysis. Whether we are developing a system, after developing a system, whether we are gaining a profit or we are losing a money, that is a loss. So this is also analysis that is also covered under the feasibility, that is known as a cost and benefit analysis or feasibility study. Next question arises, what is the result of the feasibility study? That means it gives the output in a PPT terms, that is a PowerPoint presentation, whether it gives output in a report term or in the MS Word, and what type. So it gives the answer of this question is the result of the feasibility study is a formal proposal that may be in the term of the document, that is a report. That means there is no PPT that is developed for this one, normal report that may be in the notepad, that may be in the WordPad or the MS Word. So this is a formal proposal that is used for the result of the feasibility study, and this is simply a report that is a formal document detailing the nature and the scope of the proposed solution. And the proposal summarizes what is known and what is going to be done. So these are the few summaries that is available in the feasibility study. One is the statement of the problem, that is a carefully worded statement of the problem that leads or that led to the analysis. Then summary of the findings and recommendations, that is a list of the major findings and the recommendation of the study. The next is the details of the finding, that is the outline is given, then go into the detail, whether we are covering or there's a coverage of the objectives and the procedure of the candidate system, whether we are including the report, file structure, cost and the benefit of the information system. That is, first of all, we are going into the structure, then we are going into the details. The next one is the recommendation and the conclusions, that is specific recommendation regarding the candidate system, including the personnel assignment, cost, project assignments, project schedule, and the target date. And after the management reviews the proposal, it becomes a formal agreement that paves the way for the actual design and the implementations. And this is a crucial decision point in the life cycle. This is one of the important steps. That is that makes or that becomes a formal agreement that paves the way for actual design and the implementation. And changing in the proposal are made in writing depending on the complexity, size, and the cost of the project. It is simply common sense to verify changes before committing the project design. So the first step is done. That is a user's requirement, gathering the user requirement. Next one is feasibility study. Now, let's move to the next part of this one, that is the types of the feasibility study. So first one is a technical feasibility. This feasibility focus on whether whether the company, whether the organization have a supported technical support or have a required technical support that is used for building the system. That includes the hardware, that includes the software, that includes the IT person, that includes the developer, everything that is included in the technical feasibility. Then next is the cost feasibility. That means whether we are developing the system, after developing the system, whether we are getting the profit, that is a cost benefit analysis, that is also known as the cost benefit feasibility study. Yes, in feasibility study, as the system analyst, or it's the responsibility of the system analyst, so to see from the basic level to the advanced level, that how much cost is required, how much techniques is required, how much time is required. So one is a technical feasibility, one is a cost feasibility. The next one is a time feasibility. That means whether the time that is given by the end user in the requirements that is sufficient for our organization, for our experts, for our system analysts to develop a system within that time budget, within that time limit. This is also the time feasibility. Then we have covered with the technical feasibility. Then there is a time feasibility, cost feasibility. In the same way, there are the multiple feasibility that is used for the operations. And this is the diagram that shows how to deal with these changes. What are the various tools, or what are the various, we can say, the people that is involved in the feasibility study. One is the organization, then there is a top management, users, system analyst, then moving force for the government organizations, consumers, unions. That means whether these organizations are benefited by using the feasibility study or not. That is organizations, top management, users, system analyst. That is used for the government, consumers, union, and the competitions. And there is a MIS report that is reported to the senior department of the organization, whether it is using the management information system plan in a successful way or not. And these are the various outcomes. These are the various, we can say, result of the feasibility study. One is the statement of the problem, then summary of the finding and the recommendations, then details of the findings, then recommendations and the conclusions. Now, any doubts, anyone in the first step, that is a user's requirement, or in the next step, that is a feasibility study? Anyone? Any doubts? So let's move to the next step, that is analysis. Feasibility is taking the requirements and whether to build with the new system or either to deal with or update the existing system. Next part is analysis. That is a detailed study of the various operations performed by the system and their relationship with within the organization or outside the organization. The feasibility study is also the analysis, but not the detailed analysis in this one, but analysis is the detailed study of the various operations that is performed by a system and the relationship within and outside of the system. A key question arises, what must be done to solve the problem? One aspect of analysis is defining the boundaries of the system and determining whether or not a candidate system should consider other related systems or not. And during analysis, data are collected on the available files, decision points, and the transactions that is handled by the present system. That is also a part of the analysis. And during the analysis, the data are collected on the available files, decision points, and the transaction that is handled by the present system. This is the This is during the analysis phase. That means data are collected on the available files, decision points, and the transactions handled by the present system. And the data flow diagrams, that is known as the DFD, interviews, on-site observations, and questionnaires are examples of the feasibility study as well as the examples of the analysis part. That means either we are taking the interviews from the users to gain the requirements from the users, either we are using the on-site observations. We go to the organizations to observe the users and gathering the requirement. What is the problem in their system? That is the currently system they are using, and how we are able to improve them. That is the on-site observation, as well as the questionnaires. That means prepare some questions, gather the requirement from that questionnaires. That are the examples of the analysis tools. And the interviews is a commonly used tool in analysis. It requires special skills and the sensitivity to the subjects being interviewed. And bias in data collection and interpretation can be a problem. So that means if anyone is biased in the data collection and the interpretation, that is also a problem in the analysis part. So training, experience, and the common sense is required for collection of the information that lead to the analysis. So it's the responsibility of the system analyst to gather the requirement in a perfect manner that there is no biasness among the data collection and the interpretation. And once analysis is done, the system or analyst has a firm understanding of what is to be done. That means everything is clear in the mind of the, or every picture is clear in the mind of the system analyst. That is what is going to be done, or how it is going to be done. What is the time limit? What is the time budget? What is the cost budget? So what are the various criteria by which the system analyst can develop the system? The next step is to decide how the problem might be solved. One is till now we have done what is going to be done. Now how? So till now what? Now the next step is how. That means in system design we move from the logical to the physical aspect of the life cycle. That means how the logic will be designed, how the problem will be solved. That is from the logical to the physical aspect of the life cycle. Next, so the next part is design, and this is one of the, we can say, the main part of the system development life cycle, because in this we are representing the information, we are representing each and everything with the help of the pictures, with the help of the designs. That is the design phase. So any doubts in the feasibility study in the first step, that is the user gathering the user's requirement, third phase, that is analysis part. Anyone, any doubt? So take out 2 minutes, read out the contents, and if there is any doubt, then please clarify the doubt, because we have covered one part. That means gathering the requirement, taking out the analysis, that is a feasibility study, and gathering or taking out the detailed analysis, that is known as the analysis phase.